A terrifying darkness is spreading across the world, pulling every soul into deception. And in the midst of this storm, one man rises facing the Antichrist, the embodiment of destruction, offering sweet promises, but leading humanity down the path of doom. But can faith be strong enough to break through the night? Can darkness be defeated by the light of truth? This story is not just a battle between good and evil, but a journey to discover the true nature of humanity. Watch the full video, and may God bless you. The world thought it was living in peace, but change began to creep into every corner, a change that no one could recognize until it was too late. Samuel, a devout believer, had lived his entire life in faith, suddenly became haunted by strange dreams. In these dreams, a strange face appeared, eyes bright with power, yet shadowed with an unsettling presence. A vague message echoed, "We will meet." The next morning, the feeling of fear overwhelmed Samuel, not because of anything specific, but because of a deep sense that change was approaching. He couldn't explain it, but his soul felt uneasy, as if an invisible darkness was silently drawing near. These dreams weren't just random images, but a warning, a sign of the arrival of a force beyond human comprehension. While walking through the field near the village, Samuel encountered a stranger. This man had a peculiar gaze, as if he could see through everything, knowing secrets that Samuel hadn't yet understood. The stranger said, "You can't escape anymore. The truth will find you, whether you want it or not." Those words struck Samuel's mind like a warning, but when he turned to ask more, the man had vanished. Samuel felt like the world around him had begun to change. From that moment on, nothing would ever be the same again. Samuel realized he was facing a truth he could no longer avoid. A darkness, something he never imagined, had begun to creep into his life. A force was drawing near, and this was just the beginning. Samuel could not shake the feeling of anxiety within him. The dreams continued, and the strange signs kept appearing. One night, a strange woman came to his door. She hid her face under a hood, and her voice was soft but powerful. "You have been chosen. The darkness is coming. It will test your faith." Samuel's heart seemed to stop. Her words made him feel that something terrible was about to happen, something he could not escape. She left immediately, leaving behind a chilling feeling that he couldn't erase. The next morning, Samuel sought out Father Thomas. He shared his story, and the priest listened attentively before responding in a serious tone. "You are not alone in feeling this. Many others sense it. The Antichrist will come. He will lead souls away from God." Samuel began to realize that he was no longer merely a witness to the changes happening around him. He was part of the coming battle. The dreams and warnings were not mere coincidences. Now what he faced was not just a nightmare, but a bloody war between good and evil. In the nights that followed, Samuel's dreams grew more intense, filled with images of a man with an alluring yet threatening power. The voice of this man echoed in his mind, "Follow me, and I will bring peace." But Samuel understood that this man was not a savior. He was the deceiver, and Samuel had to stand firm, even if he had to face the most terrifying challenges. The days grew heavier for Samuel. His nightmares intensified, and the dark figure from his dreams seemed to follow him, even when he was awake. One evening, a crowd gathered in the village, drawn by a man whose words were smooth and persuasive, promising peace and prosperity. Samuel recognized him instantly, the figure from his dreams, the Antichrist. The crowd cheered, entranced by his words. But Samuel felt only dread. The man's power over them was undeniable, and Samuel knew this was no mere leader. This was the deceiver, the one who would lead them to destruction. As Samuel tried to leave, he heard a voice in his mind, the same voice from his dreams. "You will fall like the others." The fear threatened to overwhelm him, but he realized this was the test. This was his moment of choice. That night, unable to sleep, Samuel sought guidance from Father Thomas. The priest confirmed his fears. The Antichrist was here, using promises of peace to manipulate and control. "We fight with faith," Father Thomas said. "That is our only weapon." Samuel knew the war had begun, and he would have to stand firm against the darkness now invading the world. Samuel felt the atmosphere thickening, like the calm before a storm. Everything seemed inevitable. The Antichrist's influence was growing stronger, and people were beginning to believe in his promises. Peace, protection, a world without suffering. Samuel could feel the deception in their eyes. One day, as he walked through the village, Samuel saw a crowd gathered, listening attentively to the man he recognized as the Antichrist. His voice was captivating. "You have suffered long enough. I will end your pain. Follow me." Samuel felt trapped. He wanted to warn them, but the words wouldn't come. Everything was happening too fast, and it felt like he couldn't change anything. As the crowd dispersed, Samuel felt the Antichrist's gaze upon him. He spoke, "You resist me, but you will fall." That night, Samuel sought out Father Thomas. The priest said, "We must stand firm, for time is running out. Faith is our only weapon." Samuel knew the battle had come, and he couldn't stop now. He had to remain strong against the darkness that was overtaking the world. The storm was nearing. The Antichrist's influence was growing stronger, and more people followed him, believing his promises of peace. Samuel knew he couldn't stand by any longer. One night, the Antichrist appeared in his dreams, his smile both inviting and chilling. "You resist, but you will fall," he said. But Samuel felt a clarity he hadn't felt before. This was his moment to fight, to stand firm against the darkness. The next day, Samuel confronted the crowd, shouting, "This man is not your savior. He brings destruction." The crowd turned on him, but Samuel stood firm. The Antichrist locked eyes with him, threatening, "You will regret this." Samuel felt the weight of the darkness around him, but his faith remained strong. The battle had begun. The final confrontation was inevitable. The tension in the air was suffocating. Samuel knew the time had come. The Antichrist's power had reached its peak, and the world seemed to tremble under his influence. The people who had followed him now stood as enemies of truth, their hearts sealed by lies. Yet Samuel felt an unwavering strength deep within him. The final battle was near, and his faith would guide him. One fateful day, the Antichrist gathered his followers for the ultimate declaration. He stood tall, his presence commanding the room, speaking with the voice of authority that seemed to bend reality itself. You have all suffered enough. I am the way forward. Follow me, and I will lead you to the world's rebirth. Together, we will conquer all. The crowd cheered, their faces filled with hope, completely blind to the truth. Samuel stood at the back, heart racing yet resolute. This was the moment. He couldn't stand idly by anymore. As the Antichrist's voice filled the air, Samuel stepped forward and called out, "No, you are not the light. You are the darkness that will destroy us all." The Antichrist's eyes locked onto his, burning with fury. The ground seemed to shake with the force of his rage. "You dare defy me," his voice thundered. "You are nothing. You cannot stop what is already in motion." But Samuel stood tall, his faith stronger than ever. "You are the deceiver, the father of lies," he said. "But I will not be swayed. The light of truth will always shine through your darkness." With those words, a power unlike any other surged through Samuel. The air crackled with energy, and for the first time, he felt the full weight of his purpose. The battle was no longer just spiritual. It had become a fight for the very soul of humanity. The Antichrist advanced his power, overwhelming, but Samuel held firm. As they clashed, the darkness around them began to recede. The more Samuel resisted, the more the Antichrist's strength waned. The light of truth, fueled by Samuel's faith, began to burn away the lies. In that moment, the Antichrist's form began to flicker and fade, his grip on the world loosening. With a final desperate scream, he vanished, leaving only silence behind. The world stood still, and for the first time in a long while, hope began to take root again. Samuel, weary but unbroken, fell to his knees in gratitude. The war was over, and the light had triumphed. But Samuel knew that this victory was only temporary. The battle for the soul of humanity would never truly end. Yet he had learned that as long as faith remained, the light would always shine, no matter how dark the world became. The battle between light and darkness may never truly end, but as long as we hold on to our faith, we can stand strong. Remember, no matter how dark the world becomes, the light of truth will always find its way through. Thank you for watching, and may God's protection be with you on every step of your journey. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful content. Stay strong and always walk in the light.